Alison, I met you a couple of weeks ago, and I think we're fast friends. I think you are one of those people that I have watched on TV, enjoyed. I know who your mom is, who's a very, very famous voice actress. Growing up in that kind of showbiz house, your brother is an actor as well. He was on Land of the Giants.
And my father was on Broadway. He was in Tamerlane and Luther on Broadway, the big Albert Finney production of Luther in 60 Days.
Wow.
And when he was in Tamerlane the Great on Broadway, it was with William Shatner, because like Canadians. There you go.
Yeah. Montrealians. Anyway, so growing up in a showbiz household, I know childhood is childhood, and there's nothing to compare it with. But do you think that's different than growing up in, let's say, being your father and mother being lawyers or teachers?
Yeah, I mean, the closest I could compare it to, since we all went to work, my aunt was a concert soprano, my uncle was a violinist with the symphony. It's like, okay, does anybody not do it? I thought everyone was on TV till I was like 7. I thought people took it in turns, and it's like, your turn, you have a show now. Until I was like 7 or 8, it's like, wait, people aren't all on television? So, because it seemed normal, all our friends were on TV. I think the closest I can compare it to is if your family ran a store and you went to work in the store. If you had a family business of some kind, and as a child or a teenager, you started working with them and then continued into it, that would be the closest I could imagine, because most jobs you don't start at 5. But it seemed normal at the time because everyone we knew was doing it, and we were living in Hollywood. It was definitely completely crazy and not like other people's childhood at all. It was kind of good, that because a lot of my friends who were child actors whose parents weren't in the business, the parents were sort of blindsided by everything. They had no previous experience, so it was that, at least.
But you grew up in a kind of Hollywood that doesn't exist anymore. It was almost a free-for-all. Now there's, when young women go into Hollywood, there's all kinds of checks and balances now because of the Me Too movement, and my God, children should be protected. You actually navigated through a lot of abuse. You navigated through a lot of different crap.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, there's hotlines. There's all these workplace conditions hotlines at the union. There's a sexual abuse hotline. Kids can call. There's a whole program looking ahead for child actors. They can get counseling. There's actually places you can call if you're having a problem. I had a little advantage that my father became a manager, and that's a crazy story. My dad working for Liberace. But that meant that we're in a lot of situations where I might have gone to something alone. My father and his partner, Jess, the other manager, often came with me. And word got out when I was in my teens and early 20s. People used to say, like, well, don't bother with her, because she's just going to bring those 2 guys with her. She's going to show up with the hoods. And I was like, yeah, well, clearly I need to, if that's your attitude. There were things I wasn't called for. I mean, it's kind of horrifying. I think about how many parts I didn't come in to read for because the person in charge was looking to sexually harass women, and went, oh God, don't call her. She's going to show up with her manager. And besides, she'll probably just throw a chair at you or something if you say anything to her. So don't even start. And I think I had a reputation that I might hit you with a chair if you assaulted me. So they didn't call.
Well, yeah, but you did dodge that as well. I mean, who wants to be involved in that? Savannah, you grew up in the, I'm going to say the 90s. You're a child of a different era in all of this. As women we're stepping forward more and more to produce and direct. That had been done. I mean, there are women like Ida Lupino and who are just incredible at everything. But Nora Ephron comes to mind, and there are others, but it wasn't quite as present as in the 90s when women started to actually write and direct and produce. So you're kind of a trailblazer here in Utah.
Oh yeah. I grew up, in Alpine, Utah, and I went to school in Alpine at Timberline Middle School, and that's when I first started writing my first script. And it was interesting, like growing up and a lot of naysayers. You always have to deal with people being mean, and there's the haters like, oh sure, you're gonna make this movie, sure, when pigs fly. I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna show you pigs can fly. But I had a really awesome opportunity going to East Hollywood High School, which ironically is here in Utah. It is not in LA. Everyone thinks
we don't have an East Hollywood High School. We have a Hollywood High School. We don't have an East Hollywood High School. That's why I'm like, what?
Exactly. Everyone gets confused when I say, hey, I went to East Hollywood High School. They're like,
oh, California.
California. It's like more like West Valley, Utah, and I had to commute, coming from Alpine. It was like a 45-minute drive, but I had amazing teachers in screenwriting and acting and production, and I just caught such a fire for it. And I thought, women, we need to tell these stories. We need to tell these specific stories, for women, written by women for women. And what's interesting, Alison was telling me the other day about the Bechdel test.
Yeah. Crazy.
So
Bechdel test was started. There was a cartoon, but it's cartoons Bechdel, and she had a whole conversation about movies, and it's now become this sort of catch-all term for when you watch a movie. Does it pass the Bechdel test? It's like, do two female characters speak to each other without a guy in the room, or is it only over the guys? And if the two female characters actually have a conversation by themselves for 5 seconds, do they only talk about the guy, or do they talk about something else? And if you watch a lot of action movies and things, you will see that, yes, I said the female characters never speak. Not her movie. Her movie, it's lucky if the guys talk to each other.
It's true. It's like, so our movie, definitely passes that test. And I think, that was part of my goal, is to, write and produce a movie that, has positive role models for women, that it's not just about, a story about getting a guy, because, women, we have dreams, we have goals, and, of course, our love lives are a part of that, but that's not all who we are.
Are we there yet?
Yep. We're here.
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Alison, mentors. I mean, I know your parents were there and all of that, but Richard Bull was somebody close in your life?
Absolutely, yeah. Richard Bull, who played the wonderful Mr. Olsen, Nels, he was a graduate of the Goodman School in Chicago, so major training there. And then, of course, Catherine McGregor, our Mrs. Olsen, she studied with Meisner in New York. So, well, everyone on the show, they were all these incredible actors. Like, if you watch Twilight Zone, you can see like half the cast of Little House and all Twilight Zones, because they were all working like way back in the day. So all these incredible people, and are down to the hairdressers and makeup. We had Marilyn Monroe's makeup man, Whitey Snyder. We had Larry Germain, who'd been Betty Davis's hairdresser. So it was like we had old Hollywood there. And talk about navigating things when they were really rough. And they were there, and here we were, teenage girls growing up, and we had these people to talk to and ask questions and give us advice and say, yes, you're doing it right, or here's how it works. And that was invaluable. I can't imagine what it's like for the kids today, where they don't have anybody to talk to on the set. I don't know what I'd have done without Gladys to talk to.
I would imagine children, though, look at life a lot differently than adults do in this business. And everything seems to kind of be compounded in emotions. And when people hate you, your character,
right?
Did you take that personally and say, they hate me, until you accepted who this was?
Well, thank heavens, because I was raised in a showbiz family, and we're talking about my mom, the voiceover artist. My mother, Norma Macmillan, was the voice of Casper the Friendly Ghost and Gumby and Sweet Polly, purebred underdog's girlfriend, and Davy of Davy and Goliath. And so I had watched the cartoons, and I'd even gone to the studio with my mother. I knew my mother wasn't really a ghost or a talking green ball of clay. Very helpful. Very helpful to know that early. And so and we'd have people would come to dinner at our house, and I had just seen them like die on a police show like the night before. I'd seen them get shot and die on my television. And now they're sitting there saying, pass the potatoes. It's like, it's not real. So early on, I was like, this is not real. I knew that TV wasn't real. And I wonder how many people, like at what age they figured out movies and TV weren't real. And I was like 6 and I knew it wasn't real. So that really helped. So when I loved villains. So when I got Nellie, I was like, oh, I'm playing the villain. This is fabulous. So when people hated me, I never thought it was me. I went, oh, I'm doing such a good job. I mean, people would say, still, people, when they say, I hate you so much, I just want to reach for the screen and punch you, I always say, thank you. Thank you. You're too kind. Thank you.
Is the story about the orange soda true?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, I can still smell it to this day. You get hit in the face with an orange soda, you don't forget it. Seriously, it was a Christmas parade. I was like 16, Hollywood Christmas parade. I was like 16 years old, and just wham, right in the face. And the car was moving. I have to give this person credit. They had amazing aim because the car was moving, and they got me right in the face with a McDonald's cup of orange soda. And that was the thing, is I said, wait, things like half full. Like $1.75 a soda left. Someone saw me. It was just instantly so angry. They went, ha! And I was like, oh, it made a hell of an impression. But yeah, I had things thrown at me. I went to a fair. The only time I ever went out in costume, someone insisted that Catherine McGregor, Mrs. Olsen, and I go in costume. And I got two little girls came up and kicked me right in the butt and knocked me to the pavement and ran away laughing, and I couldn't get up. Petticoats are too heavy. I was like a turtle. I was like lying there. So yeah, people went nuts, and I still have people get like totally weird. My poor husband, Bob. People are like, "You're married to Nellie Olesen." Oh my God, what's that like? Are you okay? So yeah, it's kind of insane.
Well, and Savannah, I mean, on your end, you also have this similar kind of timeline where people recognize you now. You're going to all of these premieres that we're having around Utah. Arizona's coming up, but it's a whole different thing. They don't hate you.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of surreal. I was at the movies, with my family, seeing our movie, of course, even in dreams, the other night, and a couple, a family. And they're usually, like a group of kids, ages, I don't know, 6 to, 16. They come out of the theater of the previous showing of our movie, and I'm just not used to it. They walk up, they're like, oh my God, Amber! I was like, hi! It's like, you're alive! Thank goodness! Like,
alive, right? You're not a ghost!
People say that about me too. I don't know why. You're alive.
And they instantly hug me, and they're like, I love you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know. It's been really surreal for me because I'm not used to it. But like, I just, I'm very thankful, and just, I'm grateful that they enjoyed, our work so much. And
well, the juxtaposition, by the way, juxtaposition is a word that I don't know what it means. But between the two of you, the parallel is you put everything into a script form when you, Savannah, when you were, meeting a lot of resistance in women in film. Mm-hmm. And after Little House, Alison, you took Nellie on the road and you came to terms with her in your show.
Well, yeah, and there was a lot of resistance. There was a lot of, because Little House on the Prairie was sort of the redheaded stepchild of Hollywood. It was very weird. It's like the big shows in the 80s especially was all the, the Charlie's Angels, the Dallas, the Dynasty, the sexy shows, the nighttime soaps. And here we were at Little House on the Prairie. And people in Hollywood, New York, they either didn't watch it or pretended they didn't watch it. I always met people in the industry who secretly watched Little House and lied about it. But it was seen as something that you didn't watch if you were in New York or LA, but everybody else watched it. And there was a resistance to it that as if, and my agent talking about the time he submitted me for a role, and they said, oh no, this takes place in present day. And he said, you think she comes with the clothes? She's Pioneer Barbie? What are you talking about? That there was a resistance to people being on Little House seen as, oh, that show, and yeah, whatever. And then, of course, Nellie, I was very typecast. And I think people thought maybe I was like that. And I was definitely typecast as, well, the bitch. And at first, that was very difficult. But I found the way to overcome it was by doing stand-up comedy, letting them see me as me, getting, out on the road and having that, like, look, here I am, the breakthrough. And then, of course, the fact I like villains, because here I am again in her movie, and people are going to hate me all over again. I am so evil. I am so awful in this movie.
Alison, are fans taken back by how great you are, how sweet?
It is really funny, and to have people say, "Oh, you're so nice." What a thing to say to someone, like, because you thought I would be horrible to you, what, I'd like kick you or something, and oh, you're so much nicer in person than what. And sometimes it's funny, I laugh because I go, God, and I wasn't even that nice to them. It's like, if I'm anything other than awful, people, I have nowhere to go but up. Everyone's like, oh, she's so nice, because like by comparison, I can be kind of terrible to people actually, and everyone would think I was great, which is really weird. But it's so weird that all these years later, that people are like, well, I met Nellie. She was so nice. What did they think I was gonna do?
I think when I met you, I said that too. Huh? She's so nice.
You did?
Yeah, she's so nice. She's so unlike Nellie. What is this?
She didn't throw anything at us. It's good.
The idea that as a child on the show, 11, 12 years old, that somehow we really like that. And I was like, it was a set, and people had to work for 8-9 hours a day with hundreds of people and crew members and get through the day. If I was actually like that, I mean, what did they keep me in a cage like Hannibal Lecter and like let me out just for my scene?
Or Russell Crowe.
Right? How would they have functioned and gotten work done if you actually had someone that crazy 9 hours a day on the set? No.
Well, I imagine that part of your nastiness came from that outfit. Didn't that wig just create all kinds of physical problems for you?
Everything I was wearing was uncomfortable. When I watch, period piece films, people in the 1700s, 1800s with the wigs and the outfits, I just sit there and go, they're all in pain. They're all in terrible pain. Because I was wearing like a 20-pound petticoat and all the dresses with the sleeves to here and the collar to here, and it was like 100 degrees plus lights. And then, of course, I had the wig with the 8 million bobby pins and the giant metal cone like right here. And it's one thing to wear a wig for a couple hours for a party, but to wear a wig like that for 9 hours straight in 110-degree weather, it was excruciating. And yeah, it gave me something to work with there, and the shoes and everything else. It's like, it was a real kind of like a physical test. I mean, that's the thing. It's like there were all these things going on, and on top of it, I was in a continuous state of physical discomfort for the whole thing.
Which only added to the depth of your character.
Yeah, you channel that pain.
As we wind down the interview here, I do want to mention Even in Dreams and Twice the Dreams. This is a set of movies. You're rolling out across the country slowly. Tell me a little bit about that process. That's got to be a hair-pulling thing.
Oh man, it has been like a marathon of sprints, because as you both know, we had an amazing world premiere here in Utah a couple weeks ago, full house, and that was just the most surreal, fulfilling experience I think I've ever had in my life, especially meeting the audience members, these kids and families that I've never met personally, but they come up to me, they're like, you need to keep making movies, like, I loved this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that gives me chills, so we are, we opened in only a select number of screens, but since we open up with a bang here in Utah, we are expanding to 3 new states, this weekend. Arizona, California, and Oklahoma. Oklahoma! The Harkins Theater's there, and people can find out, show times and tickets on evenindreams.com.
Just incredible what she's done, because she made the movie at the height of the pandemic with full safety protocols, not one infectious, brilliant stuff, made the movie, and then she got theatrical release. I have so many friends who are independent filmmakers who've been making films for years, and they're like, well, I'll be lucky if it's on YouTube. I'm trying to get it onto the internet. Maybe I'll get on Netflix. And I'm like, I'm opening in theaters. My movie's opening in theaters. Where's your movie opening?
Wow. There's that nastiness again. This portion of Screen Chatter is presented by VP Dental. Check out our great dental plans starting at just $16 per month. I want to thank you both for being here. And again, go see Even in Dreams. I think it'll be out on, if you can't see it in the theater, it'll be out on DVD soon, but not real soon.
Probably later this year. That's another thing. You can reserve your copy on our website as well.
Perfect. Alison, thank you so much. I'll be sending you some photos of food. You know that. And Savannah, I'll see you at our Algonquin Roundtable writing sessions.
Yes, let's do it. Oh, you guys are the best.
Thank you both.